Originally, this section was meant to have a spoiler warning, but you probably have already seen Leon or these type of videos already being shown up in your feed on your thumbnail. So yeah, let's just kind of, knock it off and just say that Leon's in Resident Evil Requiem and someone's definitely going to get fired for leaking that information. Okay, now let's kick off. So recently, PlayStation accidentally leaked Resident Evil Requiem's cover art, or the new cover artwork basically. And obviously if you pre-ordered the game recently and you're just pre-ordering, I think it's the regular edition, I don't think it's the deluxe edition, you will see an interesting image of obviously Grace, which makes sense, she's the main star, and another character who looked very, very familiar to a certain cop who always chases a certain lady from time to time. If you're already catching the drift, you know that I'm talking of course about Leon Scott Kennedy. So yeah, that was something really crazy, and I wasn't actually expecting, of all things, for it to be shown in a pre-order artwork, which I guess, just makes it more, obvious that yes, Resident Evil Requiem's new trailer, the next trailer, will be of course showing off Leon, which I already gathered it was either going to be Leon or Jill. It wasn't obviously going to be both, but we obviously now got that confirmation that it is Leon, which, I'm actually pretty disappointed by that. Only reason why is because, again, I think it would have been nice to see Jill, but it does follow up with that other rumor that I heard some time back. I think it was from Dust Golem. Obviously, it's fitting for his trilogy, because as you know, we got Resident Evil 2 remake, we got Resident Evil 4 remake, and obviously him being in Resident Evil Requiem does tie in that sort of trilogy of games that he's been in. Of course, I think afterwards they will probably focus on Jill next. Of course, it could also be Claire. I'm only saying Jill because they really pushed her in Resident Evil Death Island, and after a lot of people wanted Jill back, of course they might probably focus on Jill next. That's the only reason why I'm thinking this, by the way. They could also do Claire, which I would be so happy if they actually do Claire. Honestly, Jill or Claire, that's just me. I just wanted to play that out there in case someone, in case someone typed in the comments, oh my gosh, this person's only mentioning Jill and not Claire, or something along those lines. I imagine we probably obviously have one of them being Resident Evil 5 remake, being part of that trilogy, or I don't know what their plans are, but for the most part, we know that Leon will be in Resident Evil Requiem. How much of a actual big impact will he be in the story? I don't know. Again, I know it's Raccoon City, so I feel like they're still going to try and appease to a lot of fans to some big role that he'll have, but I just don't think it's going to be as massive as you think. I think it's probably going to be along the lines as probably like what Chris was in Resident Evil Village, and to some extent Resident Evil 7, because he didn't really have a massive role. If anything, he had his own little separate campaign. Obviously, they could do the same thing with Leon, even have a DLC for him. But of course, given that he's actually in the cover art, I imagine that he's probably actually in the base game. So looking at his appearance, you can obviously tell that he is still quite, old. Not, as old as people made it out to be, with the memes and stuff, saying he'll be 70, 80 years old, which, again, I just knew it was going to be like that because, well, Resident Evil Requiem, although yes, still elite, is obviously not too far from what we already know when it comes to the timelines of things, which I roughly remember, so please correct me, but I think he is 48 years old or something like that. Correct me in the comments, because I'm not fully sure. I haven't done a proper recap of the series, which I'm probably going to soon, just around the time of when Resident Evil Requiem dropped. Yeah, I think judging from that, you can obviously tell that he's been through it all. You can tell he's a man that's suffered the terrors and the, situations of what the Resident Evil world has brought. When it comes to viruses, the people, obviously Wesker and Umbrella and William Birkins, all that sort of stuff. Obviously he hasn't encountered all of these characters, but I'm just saying he's just suffered a lot from these and grown greatly, and obviously gained the courage to actually help out people as best as he can, because obviously after all he's still human, and you can see that really with his actual face and his expression, or lack of expression, but you can tell he's just kind of been through it all. Now I am also curious whether they'll keep that sort of side of Leon where he just kind of cracks jokes here and there, because he's been doing that for a while, so he kind of since his real inception. Obviously Resident Evil 2 he kind of done it, but not as much. There was little jokes. Well, maybe it's just the dialogue, and back then it probably wasn't. Resident Evil 4 definitely kind of kicked off that trend of naturally just whipping out jokes every, there and now. And of course that continued on more and more with each game he was in. So I wonder if that would probably disappear. I hope not, because I still like that about Leon. That's kind of what made him more interesting was that even though in the tougher situations, he always would crack a joke or two. His appearance obviously does make a sense naturally, because you gotta think, if you want something to really hook fans, then yeah, having a new character like Leon was gonna make a lot of sense in actually making this game. Like, if you want something big, especially at the Game Awards, to be showing off, then yeah, Leon's your guy to actually do that. I guess you could do Chris, but I think everyone would just kind of have a blank face because they've seen him like 560 times, so having Leon will definitely shake things up, so I'm glad that they actually chose Leon, and that of course he'll probably be showing off tomorrow. I wonder what his voice is going to be like. Are they going to use the previous voice that they was using, or are they going to switch it up? I am very curious about that. But either way, I'm super stoked and super happy, and I hope obviously this will kind of encourage more people to play Resident Evil Requiem now that they will obviously show off Leon in the game, and maybe it'll get people that are a little bit undecisive to actually get Resident Evil Requiem. Hopefully they also show off gameplay, because one thing I also will say when it comes to all of this, when it comes to Resident Evil Requiem, is that there's a strong lack of actual proper footage of gameplay or really any like mechanics in this game. If they could actually show that off in tomorrow's actual announcement, as well as obviously show off Leon, then that is perfect for me, at least for me. Again, comment down below what you guys would like to see from this announcement when it comes to Resident Evil Requiem's trailer tomorrow, and how do you feel about Leon being in Resident Evil Requiem? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, hit that like button and subscribe for more Resident Evil content. So yeah, I'll see you all next time, probably like in a few days, because I know I'll be covering whatever they be showing off tomorrow, as long as it's obviously something major, of course. Peace out guys, and I'll see you in a few days.